Morning, everybody. Please remember to put your name and your site within the chat box, and then we'll get started in about 1 minute. Alicia, our guru of gurus of compliance monitoring, and Erica will be leading us today, and Rebecca and Ellen and Angela and I will be supporting them. We'll start here in about 1 minute.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Those of you, we thank you for joining us. We're almost at the end of our cohort 16 training. Today, you may hear some things that you may have already been familiar with, or some things that may be a little bit new. There will be some activities throughout the presentation for us to chime in, give you all an opportunity to chime in and give us some feedback, as well as to review or look at your personal RFA, your application that you're serving. Okay, can everyone see my screen? We're ready to get started? Excellent. All righty, so you know our 21st century team, we're still looking for some TAs. So if any of you all know any retirees in education, please let us know, contact Annette, and she'll be happy to speak with that person. But we are looking for retirees in education that could assist us as TAs with the 21st century grant. We're going to continue with the same agenda that we've been using for these training, but with the most important part is our purpose. We want to make sure that we continue to make sure that we are implementing the 21st century's grant to ensure compliancy. We want to be in compliancy when it comes to spending our federal dollars. 2 documents that we'll be referring to throughout the presentation will be your 22-23 compliance monitoring checklist, as well as the cohort 16 RFA, as we call it, but it's actually the application for the 21st century grant for cohort 16. You'll hear words that we'll be referring to for components and standards. Standards is coming from our compliance monitoring checklist, and components is coming from our RFA or our grant. So let's talk about implementation. We know this is going to be a team work effort from our sites. It's just not a one-person show. It certainly involves us to support you through this process. So today we're going to specifically address component 18, which is dealing with the budget and allocation of resources. We talked about an extensive training in October, allowances and not allowable purchases. We talked about those different function codes, but now today we're going to pretty much talk a little bit about what the narrative part of it, the implementation part of it, when we're looking at our component 18 within the grant itself. And the pages that we'll be concentrating on for this training will be pages 32 through 36 in your RFA. And we're going to go with our first section within the budget allocation of resources and talk a little bit about the narrative and EGAP, excuse me. You all have already had some experiences with that as far as writing your narrative when you are making your budgets. But we want to go into detail so that you will understand the why behind the information. So the first thing we want to do when we're talking about EGAP 2.0 and explaining the rationale for the usage of the funds, there should be an explanation for all expenditures, any dollars or cents that's being spent on anything dealing with 21st century has to have an explanation. And then we also want to talk about how each expense should align with the program goals and measurable objectives. Within your RFA, the writer of your grant pulled out specific goals that were going to be addressed in order to improve, whether it be student behavior, attendance, whether it's talking about the academic components. How are you reaching those goals? Are you reaching them through STEM? Are you reaching them through your creative arts program? Are you reaching them through your tutoring and your remediation, homework, tutoring process? Or some of us have career goals and all of that. So how do these expenses align with what was written in the grant as it relates to the goals and the objectives? Then the total cost on the budget page, they should be reasonable and necessary, and it has to be in relation to the number of participants that are going to be served, to the scope of the project, and what are your anticipated benefits? Also, the narrative in the budget should talk about how the requested funds were allocated for accomplishing tasks and activities described in the application. One of the things we want to make sure that you as a grantee understand that the 21st century funds are supposed to be supplement and not supplant. The term supplement simply means you're adding, you're supporting what has already been placed through other funds, whether it be through the other federal funds or state or even local funds. So 21st century funds should not just be the overall umbrella, the only source of funding. It is an additional or support to what has already been funded. And supplant means you're not replacing or you're not taking away from what has already been established. You are supporting, you're supplementing whatever has been provided for the students, but however, you're having additional funds to support. Both federal and state laws require that 21st century programs, their funds must be used to supplement. We cannot supplant. I cannot begin to reiterate that. And the existing level of federal, state, and local and any other non-federal state funds have been available to conduct before or after school program activities. So that's one of the things that as our specialists, the specialists, myself, and Dr. Pines, as well as our TAs, these are things that they support to make sure that this does not occur and to direct and make sure that we stay up on the right path when it comes to supplementing and not supplanting. And you'll hear often throughout, especially when we're talking about budgeting and funds, that no more than about 20%, no more than 20%, there has a cap that comes with this grant, can be spent on administration. This includes administrative salaries, the benefits, indirect costs, and auditing. So just know that this isn't something that was just per happen chance. The purpose for it is that they really want to make sure that the bulk of the funds being directly supportive to individuals, personnel, anything that is directly tied to students. Rather than me flipping back and forth, I said, you know what? Last time we did this, I got confused going back and forth. So I decided to take screenshots from the compliance monitoring. So the information that we just went over, how is that tying in to our compliance monitoring? And the section that I captured or screenshot is actually the documents that we'll be looking for, whether it be through your TA, whether it be from the program director, or even ALSDE. This is what we're looking for. These are non-negotiables. These are not, oh, I can have this and not have that. These are things that are expected to support standard 11 when it comes to narrative and budgets in the EGAP. So we have to have a copy of all of your job descriptions that are 21st century related. List of all the 21st century personnel, their job titles and positions. And then it word samples of staff employment application. We also have to have a portion from the staff handbook, not the entire staff book handbook, but a portion that specifically has a statement about the fact that the 21st century calls for background checks and fingerprinting. We also need to make sure that when the monitor or when there's a visitation comes, where do you house these things? How is it filed? And the examples of these things that should be housed are the employment applications, the background checks, the fingerprinting, and anything that's dealing with this section. So I wanted you all to see how this is connecting from the RFA when it comes to the application itself to the compliance monitoring. And do know, I meant to say this before we got started, there's gonna be a lot of talking for me. This is not going to be one of those types of presentations where it's gonna be entertaining, because it's very, very important that we know the why behind what we're doing, so that when you're getting feedback from us when it comes to your budget or revisions or even continuing your application, the why are we asking for all this information? This is going to, especially for the budget, this is going to answer those whys. Okay, so continuing on talking about a narrative in budget and EGAP, standard 13, if you looked in your compliance monitoring, these are the things that are specifically being asked. What is your chain of command? Like, who reports to who? Once again, administrative tasks, staff list, want to know their duties and responsibilities. Sometimes if we may ask if there's staff that we cannot align with what the RFA has, we'll ask you to give us how that relates to any of those jobs listed in RFA. We need copies of job descriptions. Here we go. Why are we needing these timesheets and personal activity reports? This is to make sure that our administration have just documentation of the services that's being provided, because once again, we're using federal funds. Make sure that you understand that the site director should have PARs or a timesheet, the program coordinator, the person who's over your easy reports, your secretary, and your bookkeeper, because a lot of times I have spoken with different sites and they did not realize that the person who are doing things such as easy report, secretary, or bookkeeper, we're supposed to be keeping up with timesheets. And yes, they are. We have to give them, this grant calls for keeping a record of what services are being provided when being paid through this grant. Also, what is the cost worksheet? This is letting us know what that cap is, and documentation of making sure that you know what that cap is also needs to be provided. In addition, there's two separate things that come when it comes to personnel and financials, and standard 14 when it comes to the narrative and budget and EGAP. The LEA, you all have direct access with your LEA information. And then you have non-LEA. Those are faith-based organizations, or what we call community-based organizations, CBOs or FBOs. So you all are identified as non-LEA. So the LEA, you all will continue to provide your documentation by having this inside your Cognia or information for policies of accounting. What's your policy when it comes to 21st century funds? What's your narrative for regarding reimbursements? You have to have copies of line item budgets. You also have to have your expenditures from McAleer that is reporting for 21st century. Now, if you're a CBO or a FBO, or we call you as a non-LEA, you will have copies of your monthly detailed expenditures report. So that's the difference because of what would go here. So what is identified for the LEA is not the same that should be identified or completed for those who are CBOs or FBOs. Standard 15, it is in alignment with the narrative and budget and EGAP. This is talking about those monthly recap of your student teacher ratio. Why do we have to have that? Because there's a cap. Before, when we had COVID, the cap for students was 1 to 10. Now it is back, returned to 15 students to 1 teacher. So you would have a copy of how you've been keeping up with that. Also, a list of all your 21st century employees with their job titles. Now, previously it was calling for admin. Now in this one, you list those who are employed and who are not admin, who are employed with 21st century, and you will identify their job titles and their positions. This is very important because if you drop documentation into Cognia and this does not identify who or what those positions are for those individuals, then you'll get a concern asking, this information needs to be re-uploaded, including this information. And you also want to have samples. You don't have to have all of them, but I would say at least have a sample of a timesheet or a PARS report for at least 1 or 2 for every person that holds a job title or position in your 21st century. And that's 21st century employee that is not an admin. Okay, so let's make sure we don't mix those up. We don't say, oh, I'm just going to put everything in here. Only stick to what is being asked for. And some areas are going to call for repeated samples, and we need to make sure that we don't use the word C, standard 1A or whatever to answer the question. Some things just have to be duplicated and dropped in those areas, those standards. Also make sure that you have the employees' monthly, weekly, and daily salaries. That's why you hear us saying in your narrative, what's the hourly rate for this person? But then you're going to show, if you want to have it already on the PARS report, which is something that I would probably do, but show what the hourly rate is and how much they make either monthly, weekly, or daily. If it's not on there, then you need to create a form or something that shows this type of information. So here's an activity for you all. If you don't mind, I want you to take out your specific RFA, through it, give an example of an expenditure from one of your sites. Some of you have many sites, some of you only have one site, and explain how that expenditure or those expenses that you all put on your budget to be refunded for, how does it align with your program's goals and measurable objectives? So I want you to look at what your expenditures are from your site, then go into your RFA and see how that aligns with the goals and measurable objectives. And I'm going to ask Dr. Pines, would you mind keeping a time on us? We'll give everybody about 3 minutes on that, and then we'll share out.
Okay, I got you.
How does your RFA align with your expenditures? Because sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes you get busy with the workings of the operations and you forget the connection. Or, people come up with really great ideas when we're having a staff meeting or something, and then we have to go back and say, now, does this align with what we put or what was written in our grant, so we can make sure we stay in alignment? And is this going to help us reach our goal and our measurable objective, your program's goal and your measurable objective? while you're working on that, think about sharing out for us what's been working and in this particular activity. Maybe have a great story to go with it, because I know some great stuff is going on. I've been out there, I've been seeing it.
You have about 25 more seconds. Okay, that's your 3 minutes.
So would anybody like to share out, or would you like to be voluntarily? I used to hate that in my classes, voluntarily told, but I won't say that. But anyway, who would like to share out? Unmute yourself and come on out and share. Okay, so let's see. I see Kim Allison. Would you mind sharing, Kim?
I'll be happy to. I was trying to talk Teresa Swain, my coworker, into sharing. One thing that we, for Salter, we have written into the program is that we take our kids from Salter to swimming lessons in the summertime. That's a big thing. So many of our kids during COVID were locked in and couldn't get out, and so many of our children don't have pools at their homes, and so that was a big thing this past summer. It's taking those kids once every week or two to the local pool for their kid fit, but they also got swimming lessons while they were there, and that's a lifelong skill. And a lot of the kids were so thrilled because they had never been swimming before. And they looked forward to that. And so that was one thing that popped in my head when you were mentioning the goals, and we want those things that are going to be life-saving for those children, because they can help their brothers and sisters learn as well. So
right. And we also know that aligns with the physical part of the application. That's part of the program. And we also know that this could help because we know that the physical activity could help with the education part, which will help with the to achieve anything that's dealing with academics.
Yes,
So,
and we did see that improvement. With that brain activity, we want to increase that brain activity so that it will help the reading. So
thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Diana, do you mind sharing? Okay, I can't hear. Let's see. I see a
I'll
debug.
share.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
share.
Thank you.
I know. I'm a team player. This is Gina Waldrop. I'm with Better Basics, and we do a lot with the Flying Classroom, and it's a super umbrella, I call it, because it covers our STEM program, and that is a big part of our application, is to promote STEM programming. Plus, it does coincides with our objectives for academic achievement. And so we utilize the Flying Classroom program with Captain Irving, and it's a wonderful program. I think this is our last year, but we've been doing that for the past couple of years, and that is one of our expenditures.
Okay, so can you give a little bit detail about what they do?
So the flying classroom is, we call them adventures. Captain Irving flew around the world, and he experienced a lot of different adventures, and he wanted to sort of put those adventures in a program kit so that students could understand and experience some of the things he experienced. So we purchased the kits from the flying classrooms. Each child will receive a kit. Inside the kit is every tool, everything that they need for the 12 adventures that they experience virtually with Captain Irving and his staff. The kids meet once a week. We started last Thursday. And so it's wonderful. They will, I don't know what adventure Captain Irving experienced, but the kids will dissect an owl pellet. That's one of the upcoming experiences. And we're working now majority third grade. We've sprinkled in some fourth and fifth graders because we've been doing the program for 2 years. We didn't want the kids to just keep doing the same adventures. These are new adventures this time around, but keep in mind our third graders that we have this year were not able to participate in the program because the program starts at third grade. So we know that these kids were first graders when we started. So this is their first time.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
All right, so as you all could hear, I've heard a STEM program, and I also, which was on some science, and I know we all know that science is buried in reading, and I'm sure they probably have some social studies, visiting other countries and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the PE component, the physical activity, where you were exposing students who might not normally get a chance to go swimming. And I was just thinking about my own experience at my site. Was the first time the YMCA, we were receiving services from the local YMCA, and our students got to go swimming, and it was such a big impact, not just for the students, but the community itself. So, you know, just having these different expenditures and how they is written into your program, and then how you're using to reach those different experiences to reach your goals that can be measurable, that can be measured. Okay. So the next section that we need to address when it comes to our RFA, component 18, contracted services or other purchase services. And as we go through this, some of you may be saying, well, I did not know this, and I've been working this grant. That is okay. We're just getting an opportunity now to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that's why we started with cohort 16. So when it comes to contracted services, under this umbrella, we should be seeing some subcontractors or with some contracted services to allow our students to be able to receive services outside of just the normacy of school in the building. That's why it's called a community-based program, because the community is also providing services, which is exposing our students to things that they may not, normally run into or have any exposure with. So subcontractors are defined as an entity that provides all types of different levels of grant-related support. It can be on an agreement of a contract, or it can be, you pay them for their services. I remember when we had someone to come in to my site to do karate. I mean, that was such a big thing. We had golfing, but we paid these people for services. And then we had some that came in with the background, such as different sororities or fraternities that just came to talk to our students. We didn't give them a fee, or they came in and they read, or they came in and participated and assisted with field trips and all that kind of stuff, just to build a relationship with students. They were still a part of our contracting services, but they did not receive a fee because they were providing services that did not receive fees. And then there's some that provide service that did not provide a fee. So throughout the life of the grant that's awarded, it may become necessary for you as a grantee to contract with other entities or to even purchase services to provide children, families, schools, and or the community that which is needed to ensure that the program or the success, the students are successful. You want to maintain this relationship legally. There needs to be an accountability, and we do that through a contract or an MOU, or I say MOA, but it's MOU, or an agreement that they're providing some form of good or services, whether it is fee-based or not, okay? We have unfortunately been in situations on the state level where we have intervened, where I would say a person was providing services and they had identified what their services were going to be through their MOA or MOU, and then decided to add something to it and wanted to be paid where it wasn't originally placed in the agreement. And so therefore, and the services that was being asked was not in alignment with the grant. And so the site was in the right position to say, we're not going to be able to honor this with paying through our funds, 21st century funds and whatnot. And so we were able to support them because they had their MOU and their MOA. And unfortunately, that's just the times that we live in. You don't want to have any bad relationships with anybody, but I do know that when you're upfront and you know the expectations and the services that are expected of you, and you have something such as an MOA or MOU in place, that will eliminate any questions or any issues that may come about. So in your EGAP, there is a form that is provided for you. And it's also in the application found on page C-7, but you can also find it in related documents up under Form 5. If you look at the first bullet, this is required for all non-LEAs. Form 5 is required for non-LEAs from the very beginning, because we know in order for you to have had or been awarded this grant, that means that you have partnered with an LEA, and an MOA was done or MOU was done and signed off saying that the local school system was going to partner with you and support you through this endeavor. LEAs do not do this type of an agreement because they stand alone in providing services for their students the 21st century. However, the next bullet said all grantees who have contracts or contractors who are providing services are expected to have a contract. It needs to be uploaded in related documents or the LEA document library. Now, I put LEA document library because if you have multiple sites and you have one particular vendor that's providing services to all 6 or all 10 of your sites or all 5 of your sites, rather than uploading Form 5 in each site, then you can go to document library and upload it at one time, as long as the timing is showing that they are providing services for the entire time. Now, if there's some breakage in the time, then you know you need to upload a new one if they are going to decide to continue services after that timeline. So what I mean by that is if you decided to use balloon services to come out and do magic tricks from, and they just wanted to see if this would be workable for them. So they said, we'll just do the first semester, August to December. This was their first time and they're trying to see if this would be good for them to come and to provide services. It was a success. You all had uploaded it in the document library or either in Form 5 under related documents. And they decided we're going to come back and finish out the rest of the year. And so therefore, you have them to complete another one to show that they picked back up their services in January and completed it in May. And you would need to upload the new. You want to keep both agreements there. So we did speak with the platform with EGAP, our contact person, and that has been taken care of, so that you don't have to, you have multiple links that you can put in for Form 5, as well as in related documents when it comes to that. So if you are a CBO or an FBO, then you would have your memorandum of agreement with the LEA, and you would have your agreements for anyone that you've contracted that's providing any type of services to your students there as well. So how does this relate to your compliance monitoring? The contract services are asked for, it does require documentation for these contracted services. The grant wants to see, were you able to provide services to students from outside in the community to help reach your program's goals or your application goal. And so copies of your policy and procedures for purchase orders, that's related, ties right into your finances. Anything that was approved and completed for purchase orders, funds that were used from 21st century, this is requesting receipts, anything that was approved, okay? For the fiscal year of this particular, for the grant. All right, copies of contractual services or purchase services, contracts or agreements, MOUs or MOAs or anything of that nature. This is where you want to make sure that you show that you did your due diligence and followed the guidelines of the federal program or for the 21st century grant, and making sure that, you know, you just didn't say thank you for your services, but you actually had a contract with them, even if it's not paid services. But if you know that they're providing services to your boys and girls at your sites, then there should be something uploaded. Now, I know this is new, so as I am reviewing ES2s, what I've been doing is just telling my sites, upload your contract as soon as possible before the next request for reimbursement for your expenditures. So if you have uploaded or you've paid for services for October and you sent it in and I did not see it, then I would just send you an email and also place a comment that is understood that the contracts must be uploaded. And this is the key, it must be signed. And so I will, based on your situation, we will talk back and forth, but I don't want you to get in a situation where we're unable to reimburse you, because if it's anything dealing with funds, we don't have a contract on file or in EGAP to support providing reimbursements for those purchases. So yes, this may be new, but we need to make sure that this is in place. It's not new, it's just we are making sure that we're enforcing the things that are being asked of us when it comes to using the federal dollars with the 21st century grant. It's another activity. Reflect on a contract that is providing services at, you know, one or all of your sites. And Ms. Waldrop had already kind of talked about, Dorinda had already talked about this a little bit, I think. Or Jean, I'm sorry. I get my Waldrops mixed up. Excuse me, Gina, I do that all the time.
That's
Gina,
okay, I
apologize.
understand. No problem.
We got two of y'all. But I want you to just kind of reflect on the contract that is being provided services for you, and then explain their services, and then talk about how they're aligned with your RFA. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a contract that was provided for fees. It could be something like I explained earlier at my site, how we had sororities to come in. Does anybody like to share out something for services that they have contracts on for individuals? I just looked at some, so I could call some folks out, but I'm gonna see if y'all gonna volunteer for me. Yeah,
Alicia, this is Renee Jones with Tuscaloosa's One Place.
I was just about to call you, Renee, because I just looked at y'all stuff.
Oh my goodness, great timing then. With our our cohort 16 schools, Englewood and Matthews Elementary, we have a memorandum of understanding with a volunteer group from the University of Alabama called ALS Pals. And ALS Pals has one-to-one mentoring with our students twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays. And part of their mentoring time is set aside for them to get academic help, academic support, and enrichment. The lady who is in charge of ALS Pals is an educator, so she has extensive background on, lesson planning and standards and providing those for the group. So that has been, very important to our students because, again, the one-to-one mentoring, they have a positive adult role model who comes in and works with them each week on the Mondays and Wednesdays. And like I say, they get support not only with academics, their life skills, and those different areas.
Yes, mentoring is so important, and that's awesome that they're also, you all are also allowing them to intertwine with the academic aspect of it, because it's something about, I just remember when Faulkner University came to my site, seeing those basketball players coming in, not just coming in to build a relationship by playing games with them during the PE time or whatever, but when we had our tutoring time, or a student needed additional help dealing with maybe it was just sight words, and just having someone to just kind of drill them with it or help listen to them read, it just built the students' confidence. So that's really good, Renee. Keep up the good job over there at Tuscaloosa One Place.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, we'll move on. Our next area or grant that we want to talk about that's dealing with budget allocations and resources is joint or co-applicant proposals. And I know you all are familiar with that because there's a form that is expected to be completed. So let's talk about what that is. This is something that Form 4 and 5 kind of go hand in hand. It kind of talks about a little bit about these are could be your co-applicants or joint proposals when it comes to carrying out the program. So this is a collaboration, and it's not just a partnership through contracted provided services. There, within the application itself, there was an outline of requirements or criteria if you were to meet to be a co-applicant with a grantee. But it's also, we want to also make sure that this grant, remember, is community-based. So they're wanting us to make sure that we're actively engaged in seeking partners to assist with the students and the families that live in the particular community that we are servicing through the 21st Century grant. So when we talk about a partner, and I thought a star, because a partner can do so much, it just really does heighten up your program. A partner is defined as a non-applicant or a non-co-applicant entity. So there's a difference. They're not part of the application or the applicant or the grantee. They're simply there to provide all types of different support at different levels, kind of to enhance your program. My partner or yes, my partner was Faulkner University here in Montgomery. And when the president, Dr. Williams, and I met and talked, our vision came together. We were able to even assist, my school was even able to assist some of their needs at the university level. And so the partnership just grew and grew. They weren't co-applicants, or they did not help me because I was an LEA, did not help me with the grant itself, but they helped, I guess, just elevate our 21st century by really being great partners with our 21st century grant. And so we were able to do things on different levels because of our relationship and our partnership. So when you're talking about this part of the requirements, the form 4 is uploaded in related documents, and you should have anyone that is a partner with you and they agree to be in a partner with you, and you kind of give a snippet of what type of services and the frequency of the services that they're willing to offer you to help. Some of them may be those that you that may only come once a month or quarterly, but they partner you. You may not always see them out in the school, but things such as, I remember we had umbrella and boots, and my school, everyone walked. We had no buses. And so when it was really cold or raining, guess what my attendance did? It dropped. So attendance is addressed in the 21st century grant. So this organization came about, this business came about, just giving us just a wealth of umbrellas and rain boots and raincoats, and we housed them. And the students, we didn't say you got to bring them back. You know, we housed them and they had something to wear so that would help bring them to school on those rainy days. So that was a partner that we had for an agreement when it came to our 21st century grant, but we didn't receive any funds from them. We did receive, you know, the actual apparel, I guess you would say, for the rainy day, but that was our partner. And they weren't always in the building, but anytime we needed something that came up, they were creative in coming up with ideas, and we would meet and share with them some of our concerns and go over our grant with them. That was how we were able to get partners. So this is one of those things that is required, partnership. Now, how does this align with your compliance monitoring? What parts of the compliance monitoring checklist does this address? Well, standard 19, this is addressing this. You're going to list all your partners, the services they provide, and the frequency of the services. So guess what? You could just simply upload your form 4, okay? Then also, that's duplicated. The third bullet, copies of any additional grants. If you have any additional grants that support your students in the 21st century, you want copies of that grant in there. And then any district or local school financial statement related to additional donations. So if someone is providing additional funds for the 21st century to support them, then there needs to be a financial statement showing that those additional funds are flowing through your record keeping book. All right. Standard 21 on the compliance monitoring checklist addresses joint and co-applicant proposals. Some documentation for this is, once again, you're going to list your partners, their volunteers, the services they provide, and the frequency of services. You're going to upload your MOU, your MOA, or your contracts, your partnership agreements, if you have any. For instance, if they say, well, if we do this, then you all will do this for us. Do you have any of that type of agreement? Then you want to make sure that you have partner surveys. Did you survey your partners to make sure that they were able to meet your needs and you were able to meet their needs if it was an agreement between the two, if they were able to how did they like the process? How could things be better? So there should be a survey showing that you surveyed your partners. And then also easy reports. We know that's through Erica or TPI when you're supposed to keep a list of your partners and your volunteers. That's a part of data. Standard 23 addresses joint or co-applicant proposals. Now there should be an agreement or a contract with your child nutrition program because the state of Alabama has made it so that our child nutrition program can work with our after school program. This is why you keep a daily snack count to show that you're making sure that those services to food or snack are being kept. And then you have your weekly snack or dinner menu uploaded here. So this is the documentation to support your joint or co-applicant proposal as it refers to our RFA under Standard 23. All right, we got another activity. Name a partner. Are they engaged with your program? If they are, explain how and what part of your RFA is this addressing. And then if you don't have a partner that's engaged, you have them on a list, but they're not engaged, what are some things that we could do to engage them? So let's just start with the first one. Anybody want to share out a fantastic partner that they have that is engaged with your program and just talk to us a little bit about it?
Well, we're just starting. This is Cecily from Tuscumbia City, and we are just starting, but we have a partner, Parkview Baptist Church, and they have just been phenomenal. They come out. We have 4 different areas, and it runs on a 2-week rotation. And one day we have recreation where we have a retired PE coach. They come in with some other support people, and they play games and they do some PE activities. One day we have some retired teachers that come and they do art with our students. One day we have some a retired band director and another person who are good with music, and they come in and they've introduced instruments to them and we're 3-5. So in our K2 school does it also. They do it there too. And they've introduced saxophone, drums, several different areas. And then we also have another person who's a retired teacher that comes in and does a reading story, but she always teaches like sensory, just some extra things that, that they need to expose them. And then also exposes sometimes some nonfiction things that gives them some just, background building oral language. So we've been really excited about our partners since they've just taken off with us just in the beginning.
Cecily, for sharing. That's great. Can you imagine probably what that's doing also to the retirees? I mean, I don't know about you. I haven't been in the building, but when I go in the building, I get all hyped because I've been out of it for a couple of years. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And I mean, I heard while you were talking, you hit all some major components that we are supposed to address in our RFA. The creative arts, the PE component, the academic component, but it's through a partner. And then you're exposing the community to all of the great work that's going on in that building with those boys and girls. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Well, what if you had a partner that originally started and for whatever means was not keeping up or not able to fulfill their agreement to partnering with you? Anybody have any ideas of some things that we could probably do to maybe get them, pull them back in and get them back engaged? with the program? Let's see, I'm gonna call, let's see, Angela, are you one of my TAs? Or Ellen?
I'm on. I think we're both on.
Okay, great. Can you guys think of some ideas that we could share? I know I'm putting you in your spot, I apologize. That what we could do or assist any of our grantees that may be having some difficulties with getting any partners involved that originally said that they would partner with them?
I think probably inviting them to come see what you've got going on and show them where the need for their participation is. And I think, you know, a visual is probably, and an invite is probably the best way to do such.
And I would agree with that. I was going to say, you know, go back to your original RFA and those conversations that you had with those partners when you entered into that partnership. And what was it that you discussed that, you know, they were going to partner with you to achieve in your program? And just, you know, sit down conversation, remember, again, like you said earlier, remember the why. Why did we partner together? And how can, you know, what's done is done. There's not been as much engagement with the partnership or activity with the partnership, but what can we do moving forward together to get it going and work best together for our kids?
And another thing is going back and see who the contact person was for that partnership. You know, there's been a lot of fruit basket turnover in a lot of organizations since COVID. And so the person that was listed on there might not be that person. And the new person might not have a clue what the other one did as far as, you know, saying that they would partner with you. So that's a good conversation to have as well.
I was just about to say something similar that was very good, Alan, because communication is the key. And sometimes it just gets lost. It's not purposefully done. But that's absolutely, and everybody likes hot coffee and a donut or something, you know, where you can just get together, just chit chat, you know, over what's going on and how they're needed. So that's thank you ladies for very much.
You're welcome.
Hey.
So on that, if you have an address or some way to contact them.
Yes, an address or somewhere.
You could have the students actually reach out, write them a letter, and show them that the kids are interested in them coming back into the school.
I like that. That's a good idea. Yeah. And something about that visual or a student, something about students being involved in things, it just kind of warms the heart a little bit more, you know, so that's very good. Thank you so much for sharing out. So the next area is called the summer expenditures. And I'm not going to go a whole lot into summer expenditures, but if you were a grantee that chose to do a summer program, then this will address you because you got a lot of extra points towards being awarded the grants if you chose to do summer expenditures. When we're looking at our budget, there are like there's one particular function code that distinctively wants you to put in, well, actually two, I'm sorry, put in your summer information. And that's going to be $6,000 to $6,099. That's your summer administration. And then your 9130, and it specifically says summer. In the past, and I'm thankful that we have EGAP the way it's set up now, but in the past, sometimes we would put everything in one area, just overall extended day and not split it out. But because you have a summer program and because the writer of the grant specifically said that this grant was going to have a summer program, we have to pull out anything that's dealing with summer when it comes to the personnel so that we will know specifically how the summer program is being implemented. We're going to have some more summer program training coming soon here in the near future, but I wanted to make sure that we all understood. That's why I kind of underlined it in red, because even when I review a grant and I see that no money has been budgeted for the summer, then I may say, you know, hey, don't forget you have to budget funds for the summer. What do you propose to do in your grant? Because the grant was written saying that you're going to do a summer program. And so those types of things. I also want to bring to your attention too, function code 4188. Anytime we're dealing with transportation, even if it's for the summer program, you want to make sure you put it in that 4188 function code. But for the summer, anything dealing with purchasing, anything for the summer program with field trips, paying anyone, it needs to specifically be directed in the summer area. So just make sure that it's reasonable what you're doing, that it is alignment with your RFA, and that the grant award request must reflect the choices that you've made. So your budget needs to reflect your RFA, okay? At component 5, dealing with the reminders, I would have to say, you all have heard us, have seen any forms when we give back feedback on your grant that has the word caps on it. What are those budgetary allowances that you're able to use? And we really wanted to highlight that for you all so that you could see from the front end how you to keep in mind those different areas that need to be budgeted. So let's look at these areas. The way this grant is set up, they want to make sure that only 20% is allocated towards administration and indirect costs. And that's a combination, okay? So we've got limits on that. Then transportation allowance is 25% of your grant. And this is going to include the bus driver salaries and benefits. We cannot put the operations of the bus driver salaries and benefits under 9130. We're going to keep it up under that 4188 that deals with transportation, and we're going to pull out and make sure we identify the driver's salaries and benefits. Anything dealing with the fuel expenses needs to go in that same area. But remember, all of that is within transportation allowance. And for the most part, what I have seen, I can't recall one particular site, but the name of the site, but this particular site has contracted services because they're with the busing company, because their LEA was not able to provide buses in the afternoons, and they only needed it for when the seasons change and it gets dark early, and so they wanted to provide transportation to those students. So they contracted out for them and provide transportations during the after school program during the school year. So anytime, even your summer transportation needs to be right in that area. There's a cap for technology allowance. It's 10%. So if this is year one, this is your brand new, this is not a continuation from you. This is cohort 16, this is your very first year, you have 10%. You will have 10% again the second year. But on your last year, your third year, 0% will be allowed for technology. So we want to make sure that you get your biggest bang for your buck, as you might want to say, when it comes to technology on the front end of year 1 and 2, because year 3, you will not be able to have any expenditures for technology through that year, okay? Cohort 15, you're able to still spend because that wasn't written into your grant, but you still have a cap. You would just need to make sure though that you have your you have budgeted and have spent in a reasonable amount of time. We kind of look at is purchasing purchasing technology, excuse me, still going to be used for those students throughout the remaining of the year in the summer? Will we get the biggest bang of our bucks, or should we just wait until you reapply for the next cohort in order to purchase technology? So those are some things to keep in mind if you're cohort 15. But for cohort 16, do know that on year 3, technology allowance will not be offered. Then 5% of your grant should be gone towards professional development. If you have not already planned for attending ACA, please make sure that you use your funds as identified within professional development. We all know that function code for that is 2215, instructional professional services. So make sure that you allocate it appropriately on your budget. And then you also know the amount that you are allowed, your cap for that. And then make sure your people are able to attend professional development. I will say this too, if you're having professional development for your staff virtually, or you're having professional development on site, you can do that. Take the funds from professional development allowance to support that. If there's some information that you want to go back over that we've gone over during these trainings and you want to go back and share it with your staff, by all means do this. But you can use your professional development allowance if you have the funds to support that, rather than having to go in your 9130. So that's just something to think about. You just have your timesheet to support it, and it'll be approved. But if you have any questions with that, just, by all means, touch bases with your TA. And if you don't have a TA, you would touch base with me or Rebecca. And then 3% of your grant, the highest percentage is 3%. You can go lower if you want to, but the highest that you can pay an external evaluator is at 3% or less. And you need to make sure that you have that allocated in your budget and towards the correct function code for that as well. That should not be in your 9130. And I can't recall right off the top of my head the function code for that. Rebecca, if you don't mind, just put in the chat box the function code that we use on our budget when it comes to external evaluator allowance. So how does this align with our compliance monitoring checklist? Well, it's going to be found on standard 13 up under budgetary allowance. Okay. We are talking about needing a chain of command personnel chart. You saw where we had to list it before, but we got to do it again. You've also got to upload your administrative staff list with their duties and responsibilities here, their job descriptions. Remember, they're talking about administration. So we don't want to just upload everybody. We only want admin information in this particular standard. And then their timesheets, anybody being paid from general administrative funds, to include your easy reports person, your secretary, the bookkeeper. Also, your admin cost worksheet needs to be uploaded again in this particular area. So yes, some things are repeated, but once again, we will not be saying to in each standard, or when we get our Cognia up running, hopefully soon, to say C standard whatever to meet whatever that standard is requiring. So we need to make sure that we have that taken care of. And then also, standard 15 is also addressing a budgetary allowance. So monthly recap of your student teacher ratios, list of all the 21st century employees to include their job titles or their positions, samples of your timesheets or your PARS report for all of your 21st century staff. So this is everyone outside of the general administration. And then if it's not on the timesheets, we need to also include the monthly, weekly, or daily salaries for those individuals. True and false. So put your answers into the chat. You won't have to share it out, but you would, if you don't mind, just share it out in your chat. All right, here we go. So only personnel working directly with students should complete a timesheet, personnel activity report. Let's see. Yeah, can I get, Angela, can you tell me who was the first person to give the answer?
Looks like Murtis Files.
Okay, give you one more. Okay, let's see if Murtis Files has the right answer. Did they have this?
She said false.
Very good. Yeah. At my school, we would do these sometimes. Okay,
Actually, everybody said false that answer. So good job, everybody.
right. All right, here's one more. Contractors providing services to students are not required to complete a timesheet or PAR, personal activity report. They are not required. Who's my first answer?
We have Cynthia Given is your
Okay.
first answer.
And let's see, are we getting more answers coming in?
We are. We are.
Here's the answer. Was the answer correct?
Hmm.
Ah. Oh,
Do you want the person with the first correct answer?
yes.
That would be Bob Bissell from Tuscumbia.
Very good. That was a tricky one. Good job. If this is not happening, then we want to make it happen. I've been telling people, if you don't know, now you know. So moving forward, we do what we're supposed to do. Okay. So if they are providing services, you want to make sure that they complete a timesheet. It doesn't have to be extensive as your other staff, but if they're providing, the Y is providing swim lessons, like we said earlier, the timesheet would just say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. From this time to this time, they're providing the swim lessons. That's it. Your contractor should be providing you some form of, because they're getting paid. These are people that are getting paid now. These are people that are getting paid. We have to connect those dots when it comes to using federal funds and showing evidence that we've done our due diligence with it. Okay. All right. And if you were me, well, I wouldn't say, but I'm just saying, just moving forward, make sure you have these things, okay?
Alicia, here's one question regarding that, that item. Miss Knight from Bread asked if you have an invoice with that information on it, is that acceptable?
Oh, that's showing you, even if it's, are you saying on the invoice, it has the days and times on it? And is that what that's saying on such and such?
She said yes.
So it would, okay, so when you think of a timesheet, what do you have? You have on 12/1, this happened. On 12/3, this happened. And so would an invoice be able to cover that? That would be my question, because there are some times when services are not provided, right? Due to, unforeseen circumstances or whatever. But just think about that aspect of it. I know it may be a little bit of a hardship for some. I'm trying to think what would be, let me get back with that one. To me, I'm gonna ask Annette to see what she says. To me, it would not. I would want them to have a PAR support, but I'll get back with you with that. Is that okay, everybody? Because I do know that some of the contracts will have services from this date to this date. They're going to provide services, but may be sufficient. I don't know. I don't want to make it harder. Well, we'll check and make sure. How about that? We can have an answer by the time we end. Anything else with that? Question with that? That was a good question. Okay.
Where would which standard on the compliance checklist would that fall under?
Or when we talked about contracts with people providing services, remember, let me see. That would be 2. So here we go. Contracts. 16A will be your contract, 16A. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to flip back and forth like that on you, but that's where it is. So now we're ready to go to the last one. Some examples of allowable and non-allowable expenditures when it comes to implementing component 18 in our RFA. So here are some examples that you can find in your RFA on pages 32 through 36 that lets you know which are allowable when it comes to spending the federal funds for the 21st Century Grant. You know, you can do your salaries to include your administration. Okay, just make sure you keep your 20% in mind as you're creating your budgets and you're doing your spending. And that you have your teachers, your tutors, and paraprofessionals. We welcome them. They're a great resource. Contractors, your external evaluators, when you're doing your criminal background checks, supplies and materials. Only thing we will ask is that you give us examples of what types of supplies and materials that you're going to purchase. Anything dealing with computer hardware, software. You're traveling to actually attend conferences, and the conference or workshops themselves can be purchased through the grant, just so long as, and you know, because sometimes you may find that there is a professional development training that we didn't say that you had to attend, but will be good or useful for you. Just make sure it's in alignment with your grant, and then have a conversation with your TA, but you definitely can use your funds for that. Transporting students home, like I talked about earlier, from any 21st century activities, even if it's an activity that's on a Saturday. I just remember my students going to, they went to the museum on a Saturday, and we have buses provided for them to be able to attend. Rent, utilities, anything dealing with parent engagement activity costs, educational field trips, and advertising, just so long as it's not promoting the program, but it's only for recruiting. Okay. And then here are some non-allowable expenditures that we want to make sure that we stay out of. That's dealing with preparation of the grant. We want to make sure that we didn't reimburse or pay anyone who actually prepared or wrote the grant. We don't also want to have pre-award costs. Telling a business that if we get the grant based off of the services that you get, then we'll pay you. So you don't want to have pre-award costs. You don't want to be using the funds for entertainment, refreshments, snacks, incentives such as plaques, trophies, stickers, or giveaways, advertisements, that's promotional or marketing items, decorative items, purchase of facilities or vehicles, facility or you know, the facility or edifice of renovations, land acquisition, capital improvements, dues of any form of organization, also non-21st century programmatic expenditures, and any costs not allowable for federal programs per EDGAR. And then there's a website for you to look at if you wanted to know even more details about it.
Alicia, I would like to say, add one other thing, because I ran across several where furniture was being purchased. Furniture is not allowable. So that's one thing that you cannot purchase with the 21st century money.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, we're not allowed to purchase furniture. Okay. So how do these expenditures align with the compliance monitoring? This is going to be found in standard 16B. When we're looking at inventory, that's going to let us know whether or not the process that you have in place, even the disposable, how do you dispose anything? That's going to be in alignment with what was allowable and not allowed. Don't forget that the district or the 21st century inventory for all years, now this is for all years of the 21st century grant, this is where that is uploaded, and it should be giving us an idea of allowable expenditures by looking at the description of the property, the date of purchase, the amount of purchase, and the item cost. Because we know if anything costs $5,000 or more, then that required permission from us to be able to make those purchases. And also the total amount of purchase, where is the purchase located? The serial number, the purchase orders for those equipment, the paid invoices for equipment. I just talked about approval for purchases totaling $5,000 or over, even if it's an email, something to show that you had approval for that particular purchase. The all 21st century equipment is labeled. That's mostly going to come from a walkthrough, but make sure that your equipment is appropriately labeled. And then when you have a walkthrough, that the following items are identified on at least 3 pieces of 21st century equipment, and that has to be the serial number. And so we'll ask for your inventory list, and then we'll look for the serial number and ask you to pull that particular item. And so then we'll look on what's on the list and then what's actually on the item. We're going to be looking also to see that it matched on the purchase order that was used to purchase the property. And then we're going to be looking to see, was the equipment labeled 21st century? So this right here is going to let us know where we within our guidelines of allowable and non-allowable expenditures. So our last activity is true or false. MOU between ABC 21st Century and Heavily Academic Intervention Company to increase students' performance by 3% as indicated in the RFA in reading and math is an allowable expenditure. Who's our first answer?
Cynthia Given as our first answer.
All right. Any more answers coming in?
There's 2 answers so far, 3 answers.
Okay. All right, let's see if Cynthia's correct. Thank you for Cynthia. Let's see, is Cynthia correct?
Cynthia is correct.
Very good, very good. This is one that you really, I want to encourage you all, because I know we're also in a time where we're not able to get additional teachers all the time. And if there is a local business that will agree to partner with you through through a contract between you, your site, or the 21st Century Grant, and providing services to increase students in reading and math with their tutoring services, or if they're providing, intervention for them. Yes, you can use your funds from the 21st century to pay for them to be able to provide those services. and just, make sure if it was me, I would just make sure that the data is reflective, that their use is actually their work or their services is actually helping you to make gains with your students. Okay, so that ends my portion for now. At this time, we're going to have Erica come along, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about component 20, which is part of your RFA on pages 36 and 37. And then standard 5 is going to address the program evaluation part. She talked a little bit about it the last time we met, but she's going to go a little bit more into detail and give us some examples. And of course, we all know that Erica is with Truman Pierce Institute, TPI.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So take a breath. Because I know this morning was heavy and we've had some short sessions, and now we're on to a little bit longer because we really want to get the meat of the grant in and the compliance stuff in before we let you go from our trainings. So, today we talked about grant requirements. So these are just some of the things that are required. There's a lot more, but the main ones I'm going to talk about is external evaluator, final report, evaluation plan, and all of these other things that we have on the list. They tie into your continuation application and your compliance. So you can go to the next one. So why are we doing external evaluations? And just tidbit, these are taken straight from the slides that we do for your external evaluator training. So we want to make sure that you're getting the same information that they're getting. So that's why we kind of took the same ones, but your external evaluators have been trained on the same things. That's why we require the training. So if you have not if you have not given me your external evaluator's name and contact information, please do that ASAP, because you are not in compliance right now. So why do external evaluation? 21st Century not only just all throughout the process wants an external person to come in or entity to come in and look at your grant, look at your compliance, make sure that you're following the rules of 21st Century and what you put in your RFA. So I sent an email last week. A lot of us got notifications from Troy University about them coming out and interviewing you or doing different things with you. But that's the actual Alabama State Department of Education, 21st Century, that's their external evaluator. So all through this process, we have external evaluators so that they can provide an objective third-party report in your final report, in your evaluation plan. They're going to give you program improvement, but they're also going to talk about your successes in the final report. They're going to talk about your successes. They're going to talk about how you made improvement towards your goals and objectives, and some different things that they give suggestions on how they can make it better, or you can make it better. But just want you to remember that they're a partner, but they're going to provide accountability for taxpayer funds, because 21st Century is a federal funds. So it's coming from all of our tax dollars. So they're going to do accountability. So that's why you're going to see them at least once a semester, because they're an extra set of eyes and ears for the federal government, for ALSDE, for TPI, for us to see what you have going on in your program. So they'll provide a progress report to the Department of Education. They provide that to TPI, and then TPI wraps it up in a nice bow, and we send it to ALSDE when we've read through them and made corrections. So they're also going to help improve technical assistance and promote targeted professional development. From their report, we're actually looking at things that we need to provide you, things that maybe are not as clear as they should be, and give us a opportunity to provide technical assistance and provide professional development. Go to the next one. So this is just on the continuation application. We talked about it for a while. Y'all are cohort 16, so everybody that was 14 has been through the continuation application process, but it's just an annual continuation application. It is generally due around October. So just be mindful that is due in October. It's going to give you budget updates. It's going to give you progress towards your objectives that you said in your original grant, and different small changes that have been prior approval from your TA. So you can make some changes, but literally not, oh, well, I had this objective, it's not measurable. No, I want to change it. You still need to tell us how you're going to be working towards that objective and what you're doing. So go to the next one. So here's the timeline. So your evaluation information is due to TPI or was due to TPI November 15th. So if I have not received that from you, please send it to me ASAP in an email, either me or Linda Williams or both, or Linda Dean. And then evaluation plans for cohort 15, they were due on December 15th. And then for cohort 16, which is everybody on the training today, they're due February 28th. So we're giving you a little bit of time to start your program. And then your evaluation plan is you're going to sit down with your external evaluator. Y'all going to have a conversation. You're going to talk about what was in your RFA. They should have been provided a copy of your RFA. And you're going to kind of set expectations for what you plan on them doing, what they plan on you doing. These also should be firmed up in your contract for your external evaluator. And that contract should be no more than 1 year. This first year, you're just starting 21st century. This might be your first time using this external evaluator. You want to make sure that you're not stuck with this person for 3 years. If you're having difficulty contacting them, or if you try to send them a document and they don't respond or you don't respond, it's a two-way street. You want to be able to say, hey, we don't quite align, because we should be forming a partnership also. So we want to have another partner. Can you click on the evaluation plan? You might have to change your screen. There we go. So this is the template, not a difficult template. This is to be completed by your external evaluator. So this should be kind of tied with maybe your first contract payment for your external evaluator. Evaluation plan turned into TPI, and there's a link on the form to tell you where you're going to submit that to. And so that's just a Qualtrics survey, no big deal. But your external evaluator submits this plan. It should be signed by you and your external evaluator. All of our templates have been updated to be signed by you and your external evaluator. So that could be the program director or the site director or the federal program director, depending on your structure of your program. But whoever is going to be meeting with the external evaluator continuously, that's the person that should be kind of meeting with this person, going over the plan for it. So next, we're going to talk about the mid-year report. So that's good. So this one is due for cohort 16 on February the 19th. So you see the deadlines and the link are going to be in the body of the template, and they're on the PowerPoint. So this one is due, and if you have questions, you can always reach out to me or Linda Williams with questions. But this is just a checkup. Remember a couple of, like last week, I think Alicia did like a checkup on your goals and your objectives. And I said, hey, this is exactly what's in the mid-year report. I have a lot of people who call me and they ask, specifics about this form. Don't take this form as this is a checkup. This is what needs to be completed by the site director and the program director. And this is to show us that you know what is in your grant. So you know what your goals and objectives, because you might not have been the person who wrote the grant, and your measurements are, and what the progress on it. So I'm going to give an example. I'm going to say, and a lot of people are getting tricked up by the proposed number and the number of participants, because in the past it said 30-day participants. It's no longer 30-day participants, because we don't count 30 days per the new GEPRA. It's how many attendants, once they attend for the first day, they are considered a 21st century participant, whether they're students or adults. So if our goal was for service learning, and so, we were supposed to do 1 or 2 service learning projects per year. I normally did 2, because I like to do one in the fall and one in the spring, or I like to do one during the school year and one during the summer. That would be up to whatever is in your RFA. So if that's my goal, 100% of my students participate in service learning. My measurable objective is my service learning activity. I wrote a whole, whatever my service learning was. The measurement is, how am I quantifying that? So my measurement could be I put it in an easy report and I did attendance on it, or we were going to provide something to an organization. The measurement is that we provided it, and I have pictures of that happening. And then the progress is, have I started on it? Have we already done it? If we've already done it, then I'm going to say complete. And strategies, work on the next service learning project, you know, for the fall or whenever your next one is going to be. That's it. That's all I'm looking for. And I want you to do that for each one of your goals. What is the goal? Where's the measurable objective? Where am I on that? What's my progress? What's the measurement that I plan to use to figure out, you know, how am I measuring that I'm actually doing it? That could be your attendance, that could be that you got grades, that could be that you received your state assessments, that whatever the measurement is that should be in the grant. And if that measurement has slightly changed, then that's okay to put that right there. But that's only a small thing that you're changing. So these are kind of linked to your GEPRs and your small Ps also. So let's go to the next one. So the other report that's due is your final report. It's due on September 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. And that's due by your external evaluator. So this template literally gives you cover page to the whole, exactly how the template should be used. We give instructions on this first page, and then we actually have table of contents. They need to give you everything on the template. So when I was a program director, when I received my final report, and I normally asked for it a few weeks before September 30th, the deadline for them to have the report to you should not be September 30th. It should be maybe September 1. September 15th at the latest, because this is an extensive document. So you want to receive this document yourself. You want to go through it. You want to make sure, and you're not changing the details in it, but you want to make sure that they aligned with the template. I have people who send me stuff and it doesn't have a cover sheet on it. I have no idea who it's from. We get over 100 of these documents. So we have to have some way of organization. Make sure that they follow the instructions. Did they put page numbers on each page? Did they do a table of contents? Did they actually pull these numbers? And we've sent all the external evaluators that we have on file so far access to Easy Report in a read-only function. I just finished sending my list yesterday. So at this point, every external evaluator that we have should have access to your Easy Report, and they should have it in a read-only function. So they can't change anything, but they can pull the report. Make sure that they're not pulling a report where you are actually seeing the students' names. That's against FERPA. You should be protecting your students' personal data, and this information is only in a kind of blanket type fashion. So demographics, tell me how many students you had within these ages, because that's the same information that we're reporting to 21 APR. So we've tried to take out, last year we had issues with, we normally pulled a lot of this data from 21 APR. Well, 21 APR, because this is a working document, it wasn't quite prepared, because this is a new process for our GEPR measures, when we needed the reports to be sent to the external evaluator. So we don't want to run into that issue anymore. So we've actually taken out the 21 APR data, and we've told you a different place that we're going to pull it from Easy Report to make it more succinct. So this is still a working document because, again, I said this isn't due until September 30th. So we're still, as we're waiting through the GEPR measures and figuring out what information is going to be provided to you in Easy Report until the external evaluators in Easy Report, this document could change slightly, but the general function of it will be the same, the general areas of it. So it is on our website, so that you can give it to your external evaluator when y'all have your meeting for your evaluation plan, and we're gonna give you a guide of where we're going. But like, hold on, stop. So you see where it says final report 22, 23, cohort 15 or 16. Identify which cohort. I want you to, when they send it to you, it shouldn't say identify which cohort anymore. They should tell me if it's cohort 15 or 16. So if they're working with you, it should be cohort 16. What year is it? We're telling you instructions, but we want you to delete our instructions when you send me the final template. So I don't want you to still have on there what year is it, grant year 1, 2, or 3. I want you to tell me this is year 1. The name of the LEA, they should know the name of your LEA because that's the LEA that's on, or CBO, because that's the entity that will be on their check. The school served, they should give you the name of the schools, and they're going to see that in either report the same way you see it in either report, the location, their name and email address, your name and email address, the program director, technical assistant. As we change technical assistants, because we can't help it, we have turnover. It's just the nature of education at this point in just the world. They need to be updated who your technical assistant is before they submit this document. I shouldn't still be receiving documents that have Ted, Donna, and Dr. French on there. They've been gone for over a year. Make sure that they are up to date with that. And that's not on the technical assistants, that's on them, on you providing that. So if I get this document and it has someone who no longer works for ALSDE on it listed as technical advisor, I know that you didn't read the document. You didn't even look at it. So make sure that you take the time and read through the document, because that's a technical thing that you could have corrected before it was sent to us. Okay. You go back to the PowerPoint. Well, actually, go to the website, because that's the next PowerPoint slide. I want to navigate to the website where these documents are.
Erica,
Go ahead.
while she's going to the website, one thing that I would like to say, I know that right now, as we're looking through the applications, with this being the second semester, by now, a lot of the sites should have already had one of their first evaluation. Am I not correct in that?
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
So because the cohort 16 grantees didn't start until almost the end of December, we didn't make them do a first semester or a fall visit. So you only for this year, if you didn't start until December. If you started in October because you were just rolling over from cohort 15, then you should have had an observation in the fall. But if you were brand new, started December 12th or 15th, whatever that date was, then you only have to do a spring and a summer observation this year. Next year, you'll have all three. Thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Collins. So this is the website. And if you go, this is just general navigation. I know we've showed y'all this website several times, and we're going to continue to show it to y'all. But if you go up there, top right to the 3 lines.
Okay, Erica, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Dr. Janet Jenkins, she has her hand up. She has a question.
Gotcha.
Dr. Jenkins, you can unmute.
Good morning, everybody. I need to know, since we don't have a TA, whose name to put on that. Our evaluator is continuing to ask that question. So please clarify for me. I told him Annette yesterday, but I'm sure that's probably not correct. So we don't have a TA for our region. Whose name will we put on our evaluation?
Angela Strickland. Just put that in the box. Anyone who is assigned to Diane is being assisted by Alicia, and anyone who is assigned to Paige is being assisted by Rebecca, Dr. Pine.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And I'm trying to add all of those things to my Friday email. So I believe it was in my Friday email also. Y'all, I know my Friday emails are long, but it's literally pertinent information that you need. So try to go through the whole email, because a lot of times we're getting questions with the same thing, but we're trying to put answers that we get questions, multiple questions on. We're trying to put that in the Friday email so that everybody will know, so that you don't have to individually reach out to us. So we're gonna go to grantee forms, and it's also under external evaluator, but I want to show y'all all the forms. Grantee form, click on that, Alicia.
Erica, can I clarify something really quickly?
Go ahead.
To eliminate the number of, this is Annette, to eliminate the number of emails going to the grantees box, we combine and collaborate together so that Erica sends out the Friday email and that it's consistent every Friday coming from the same source. So, you know, it doesn't go to your junk mail. So we have a lot of questions about that. It's like, oh, that's from Erica. That wasn't from y'all. We co-interchange, collaborate. That's the vehicle. You always can contact us directly, but we want to clarify, we work together to create that email.
Yes, that is true. I'm not coming up with all that stuff by myself, I promise. So I'm helping your inbox not be super full, but my inbox is super full throughout the week, and I'm flagging things to put in the email on Friday. So I promise you, just check my emails, read the whole thing. Okay, so when you see these files, I know a lot of people just see, oh, well, there are 4 folders. No, you can actually keep scrolling. There are a bunch of documents that are not inside the folder. But what Dr. Pines has been working on, or she normally points out, which I love this, is there's a search box right there on the right side. Just type in the document or whatever you're looking for. So let's say today somebody asked me about professional development. So I could literally just click on that search bar and type in professional, and the professional development form actually comes up. And there it is. So just kind of type in one word that you think matches with it. Training, professional development, what some other things that people ask me for, template, mid-year report, final report. All of those are in those folders or in that Google folder. But instead of trying to go through the whole thing and figure out where exactly it is, it's just go through the search box. So if you want to look at the monitoring guide or whatever, it's all in there and it's in the search box. Now, if you search for it in the search box and nothing comes up, then contact me, because maybe I forgot to put it up there. I forget things. It's okay. So then you reach out to me, and I'll not only send it to you, but I'll also drop it in the website. And I generally will say, thank you, I forgot, because I'm human, I forget things. So just want to let you know where the things are on the website. Normally I do the slash bars. I add things to the Google folders because I can easily do that. When you start talking about the website as a whole, I'm not the webmaster. So this is the easiest way for me to get things on the website quickly and get information out to you. Same as the YouTube page. I can easily drop the videos from my Zoom into the YouTube page, but I had to wait on somebody to add an extra link to make it really succinct for you to see the video. Go back to the main web page, because we changed where the videos are, or we added a place. Go to the top right. Yeah, home. Perfect. Okay, so if you click on resources right there in the center, PD training videos has been added. Click on that for me. And that's going to take you to our YouTube page. So it's still linked at the bottom, but it's also linked in the drop-down box right there in the center, so that it's easily accessible. So this is all of the videos that we've been doing lately. There's also playlists. I'm trying to keep the 22, 23, 21st century training playlist updated. So the last training from last week is already up on the website. And I generally on Fridays, I'm going to send you the direct link to the YouTube pages or to the YouTube videos, so that you can go straight to that for the recording. I know some people need to watch them, or if you want to share it with your staff. So I suggested that to a lot of people, and I think Alicia suggested it a few minutes ago. It's a good PD option to, pick through these videos, things that you feel like, hey, we need to work on this. And you go and set a scheduled time for your staff, and you show the video. And then you point out, you can stop, pause, and point out different things that you feel like y'all need to work on within your LEA or CPO. So if you go to the PowerPoint, our contact information is listed on that last slide, and that's it. Anybody have any questions for me? It's a good time to ask them. And we'll have some, if you need help with Easy Report, y'all know y'all can always contact me. We'll have some Easy Report and external evaluator trainings at ACEA also.
Ready? Okay, and Alicia wanted you all to know that what she just spoke to you about, it is aligned with the compliance monitoring document. Her mic jumped off, so she's not able to speak. Okay, and now you're seeing the different resources, the 21st Century website, which is what Erica just covered, and the items or the tools that you can gather from that. Y for Y, that website provides you with a lot of lesson plan resources and different professional development. And then Alex Learning Exchange, it's a site where you can go and look for lesson plans that you can align with those lesson plans that you are completing for service learning and just for any of the lessons that you're having. So you can go in and find different lessons or lesson plans within that. So now our upcoming required training, again, cohort 16 on January 31st. It will be virtually from 9:30 to 11:30. And during that particular one, we will cover RFA components number 15, 16, and 17. And then again on February 8th through the 10th, cohorts 15 and 16, the Alabama Community Education Association, the ACEA annual conference will be here in Montgomery at the Renaissance. And if you haven't registered for that already, please go on and do so. Also, we will have upcoming monthly training with Y for Y training. This is from the United States Department of Education. And this training will take place on February 14th, Planning for Continuous Improvement. This is also virtual and will be taking place from 3:30 to 4:30. Are there any questions at this time on anything that was covered today? Okay, so we want to thank you all for attending the training today. Just remember that we are here to assist you if you need anything. Myself, Felicia, Erica, and also Annette, we are all here to assist. So please reach out to us here at Alabama State Department of Education. Our number is 694-4516, and you can just be asked to transfer to myself, Alicia, or to Annette. And Erica, if you could, I know that you send out emails all the time with your information and phone number in it. So if you all need to reach out to Erica, please by all means reach out to her via email. And I don't see any other questions in the box. Annette, do you have anything before we get off? Oh, I'm sorry.
Great training, enjoyed it.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Well, she put her hand down. So Renee, did you have a question or not?
I do. I'm sorry. Could Erica provide us any idea of when the Troy University evaluator will start site visits with the different programs?
So normally they do virtual site visits, as far as I know. I think they've kind of split them up between the different people that work with them. So I think Michael has a group of people and he's already contacted them. And then I heard somebody else, I forget that person's name, has contacted a chunk of y'all. So I'm not sure because they don't necessarily share the schedule with me, but just know that if it's a Troy University person, they are the state evaluator. And so you do need to talk to them about your program and fill out the form that they generally ask for.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Erica.
No problem.
Okay, are there any other questions before we get off? Okay, thank you all for attending, and we look forward to seeing you all again on the 31st and then again on the 8th. Have a great day.